Hello, hello. Welcome once again to the screen of Falso Nueve Television. Do you want to know who could become the champions? Who could be the drivers' champion? Who could be the constructors' champion? Who will be the disappointment? Who will be the revelation of this tournament? Stay with us because in this video we're going to tell you everything. We're going to analyze it for you. Or to think about who could be the big teams of this year 2026 and of course who could end up at the bottom of this new championship. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Nacho Costasar, and of course, I want to welcome my dear colleagues. Obviously, first to my dear Lucas Alordi. Lucas, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you, Nacho. How are you? All good? Glad to be here.
Very good. I'm glad. I'm glad. And of course, last but not least, to Mr. Matias Ocampo. How are you, Mati?
Nacho, dear Lucas, how are you? Well, I'm happy to be in this video, also to be present for these predictions that we're going to make in this upcoming season that's coming with everything. Thank you.
Exactly. Well, let's start with the main thing. Exactly about this topic of who will be the best, who will be the worst, what the predictions will be, our predictions, and we also want to know yours. So we invite you to leave us your comments. We are going to be discussing who could be the driver's champion, who could be the constructor's champion, who will be the surprise, and who will be the disappointment. Also, in terms of drivers, in terms of teams, so, well, let's get started. I think it's better to go from back to front. So, let's start first with what it's going to be. Why not the possible revelation for this championship? Let's start with the positive. That's better. Well, first, I'll start with you, dear Lucas. Who do you think could be the possible revelation of this championship? Which team could be, or which one do you see as the revelation?
I think the three of us are going to agree on the same team because we have the Argentine jersey very much in mind. So I'm going to go with Alpine in the Barcelona and Bahrain tests. He did pretty well with Franco Colapinto among the top 10 positions and achieving a pretty fast time, just like Pierre Gasly, surpassing Franco Colapinto's record time. Both drivers seem pretty satisfied with the new Mercedes engine, and so does the Argentine driver. He looks pretty comfortable doing his first preseason.
Well, interesting. The Alpine topic is always a possibility that's floating around. Well, Mati, same for you. Who do you think is the revelation or who could be the revelation? And of course, like all exams say, justify your answer. Yes?
For my part, I'm going to go with Audi, even though last year Sauer already had some very good feelings, both with Nico Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto, a Brazilian driver who had a very good first season, scoring points. And well, let's not forget that Nico Hulkenberg got his first podium at Silverstone. I think it's a new engine because it's an Audi engine and also a new team. That's why I pick him as the revelation. This German team, has a duo of a veteran and a young guy who is no longer a rookie. The rookie was last year. This year they have to start showing something more. And I think Gabriel Bortoleto has the credentials needed so that between the two of them, they can take the German team as high as possible.
Well, interesting. Of course, I'm not going to be left behind, obviously. Later on, we'll also be commenting on some predictions that have been sent to us. We'll be mentioning them, of course. And we invite you, I insist, to leave us your own predictions. Personally, let's see. I really agree with what was said about the topic, mainly with what you said, Luca, about Alpine. I think that the teams with Mercedes engines could improve quite a lot. Personally, for example, and I think he had some good tests in Bahrain as well. And I believe that since last year, he's been showing that for me, he's ready to improve a lot. Um, it's not actually a Mercedes engine, but a Ferrari engine. I think Haas could turn out to be an interesting surprise. He's been doing a very good job with Ada Okamatsu, and he's even managed to get one of his cars into Q3 on a few occasions, and he's managed to score points as well. I think this year, with a Ferrari engine that I think could perform better, it could be a good surprise. Of course, I don't rule out Alpine or Williams either. I think science could help them improve, but I'll take a bigger risk. In the case of Haas, let's see how the Ferrari engines will do, which also seem to be performing well. Well, let's move on to the other side. Who could be the disappointment? This also applies to teams, drivers, or both, either one. In this case, I'll start with you, Mati. What's the decision? Disappointment, because there are still so many things being said, so many possibilities. Well, what's your perspective?
Well, after what we've seen in testing, of course, I'm going to quickly lean towards Aston Martin, but I would bet more on a top team, and in this case, it would be Red Bull. I think that Red Bull this season is not going to measure up. At most, they might be in the top 5 of the Constructors' Championship, but I don't know if they'll be able to fight at the top. Beyond that, obviously, Max Verstappen is a beast when it comes to driving, and last year he was even able to fight until the end of the championship. I don't know if this year the Red Bull will be as strong as last year.
All right, interesting. Also, all right, Lucas, what do you think? What could be the disappointment? It could also mean a driver. I mean, if you want, you can also add a driver. Let's see. Obviously, this past year we've had, for example, cases like the one Mati mentioned. A Red Bull that has been very divided with Max fighting for the lead and his teammate barely scoring any points with very few points overall. Well, what do you think? It could be the disappointment, it could be a team or even a driver.
For me, the disappointing team is going to be McLaren, but I don't mean disappointment as in both drivers finishing in 23rd and 24th place. For me, if they don't manage to win the championship this year, that counts as a disappointing team because they're coming from being the team that won the last three Constructors' Championships, if I'm not mistaken, and they won the last Drivers' Championship with Norris. And I think that not winning either the Champions Trophy or the Drivers' Championship would be a disappointment for the team, both for the drivers and for the team itself.
Well, it's an interesting point, also considering how hard it was for McLaren to maintain a consistent level, but in the end, they still managed to achieve it. I'm also going to lean a bit towards what Mati is saying. It's always very difficult to analyze these kinds of situations, but obviously it's going to be complicated. I think so too. I'm going with Red Bull because I think that in terms of performance, in terms of race simulation laps, the Honda engine, it didn't work. It didn't work too much, so I'll stick with Red Bull. So let's move on to the champions. In this case, to those who could be the constructors and drivers champions. Let's put them together here since they can go hand in hand or separately. Luca, who could they be? For you, what's your prediction for who will be the champions in 2026?
And for me, they won't be together. I mean, they won't be from the same team. For me, the Constructors' Champion will be Mercedes. I think they're looking pretty good in the tests, and also with the irregularities their engine has, and also in terms of the driver, I think it's going to be Max Verstappen is a beast. We all know what he's like as a driver. Last year, until halfway through the season, nobody believed that Max Verstappen was going to be able to win the championship. And yet he managed to fight. He was just two positions away in the last race from becoming champion. So I think Max Verstappen would be the perfect candidate.
Well, Mati, it's your turn to give me a prediction. I need to know if you're going to take a risk or not. I don't know, but give it to me with certainty. You're always so decisive, so give it to me with certainty. Who do you think will be the champion? Who could be the driver's champion? Who could win the constructor's title?
I think Russell is going to be the driver's champion based on what he showed in the tests and what he's been showing season after season. And the Constructors' Championship will stay the same. For me, McLaren is going to win the Constructors' Championship again. Considering that it's a Morton Mercedes, however, for me, the one who will win the Drivers' Championship is going to be Russell.
Oof, interesting. That's a good question. I'm not so decisive. I always have to think about it a little more. I think I agree with the Mercedes topic. For me, it's the Mercedes topic. In terms of the Constructors' Championship, which is the one that has shown better reliability so far, at least in terms of performance. Um, and I think Mercedes is going to win the Constructors' Championship. Who is going to win the Drivers' Championship? I think there's going to be a very interesting fight between McLaren and Mercedes. at least for me. And Ferrari could also be in the competition. In this case, I'm going to end up giving it, I think, to Oscar Piastri because I also think McLaren has been just as consistent. We'll have to see. There's still a long way to go, but yes, I think if Piastri takes the spotlight, we'll have to see if he really does take the spotlight too. That's another story, but I think it could end up being a pretty real possibility, but anything can happen. I also can't leave out Ferrari, which I think will compete there, at least in the Constructors' Championship. If everything goes well, I even think that Leclerc could fight for the Constructors' Championship, and this is confirmed. This is recorded here, obviously. Of course, so obviously, I think that Leclerc, if everything goes well, I repeat, can fight for the Drivers' Championship. Sorry, not the Constructors, the Drivers. Clip this exactly, guys. Let's also read some of the comments and start wrapping up. For example, we have our dear Diego El Castillo, drivers champion Charles Leclerc, constructors champion McLaren. Surprise! Cadillac finishes at the minimum, Aston Martin is champion, and Aston Martin also disappoints. We also send regards to Lucas de Micheli, who couldn't be here today. Drivers champion Russell, constructors champion Ferrari, surprise Alpine, disappointment Aston Martin. Of course, we also have Vicky in this case, whom we also send a hug to. He says, Drivers champion Russell, constructors champion Mercedes, surprise Franco with the Pinto and Alpine, disappointment Max Verstappen. Mariano, also our dear friend Mariano, Maka Charles Leclerc, drivers champion, constructors champion Red Bull, surprise Audi, disappointment Franco with the Pinto. So these are the predictions. These are the predictions they left us. So, well, Mati, thank you very much. It's a pleasure as always.
Big hug, Nacho, and a very big hug too. See you next time.
Perfect. A hug, Lucas, too. A pleasure, a real pleasure.
A pleasure, Nacho. See you next time.
Thank you very much. These were the predictions for the 2026 Formula One Championship here from the F9 Racing Team. Thank you very much. Keep joining us for more videos. A hug.